It's of course the search to find your identity is there. You want to do that. You want to probably isolate yourself from the noise. But at the end of the day, the arts as a field is also a very competitive space, isn't it?
I didn't go into music to become an artist. I'd never imagined I'd make an album. That wasn't why I went into music. I went to music to sing. You know what I would do when I started singing? I became a music beggar. I truly would. I heard for the very first time, I heard Pandit Jasraj sing. And I heard him, I was sitting in the first row because I was a patron of this arts organization. I didn't know who he was. I never heard Hindustani music. I'd been in Brazilian, Karnataka, all of that, but never much with Hindustani. I sat in the first row, and then he started singing. And then for the next 4 hours or 3 hours,
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. China's economy has grown faster than expected, expanding by 5.4% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2025. But this comes as Beijing, in fact, faces mounting pressure in a heated trade war with the United States. Now, the US under President Trump has slapped a massive 245% tariff on all Chinese imports just hours ago. It's a direct response to what the White House calls unfair retaliation by Beijing. The White House has further said that China must make the first move if it wants a deal. In fact, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt quoted President Trump directly saying, "The ball is in China's court. We don't need a deal. They do." On the other hand, China has hit back, urging Washington to stop exerting what it calls maximum pressure and return to dialogue if it truly desires a resolution. The world's second largest economy is now bracing for the full impact of these renewed 245% tariffs, even as it struggles to maintain momentum. Now, listening to what the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics had to say earlier in the day, and where does the White House, in fact, stand on the issue?
从短期来看呢，这是美国加征高额关税会对我们国家的这个外贸和经济带来一定的压力，但是改变不了中国经济持续长期向好的大势。中国经济基础稳，韧性强，潜力大，所以我们有底气、有能力、有信心应对外部挑战，实现既定发展目标。
Look, the president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office. The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
Well, my colleague Gauri Dwivedi now joins us for the latest on this. Gauri, you heard both the statements. Washington saying the ball is in China's court versus Beijing saying it's maximum pressure. So it seems like a game of all brakes and no gas right now. What can we expect, Gauri?
We can expect more tensions between China and US going forward. It clearly looks like both sides are waiting for the other party to now blink first. As far as these Chinese economic parameters are concerned, one needs to keep in mind this is January to March. This is before the Trump tariffs kicked in. So before any of the trade tensions, the trade uncertainty kicked in, these are those set of numbers. Of course, they indicate that the Chinese economy has done better than several years. In fact, the manufacturing numbers are the highest in the last 5 years. So indicates that the entire COVID, post-COVID lockdown, all of that economic distress, the Chinese economy has recovered from it till March. But now you have fresh trade tensions that are likely to have an impact on the overall economic forecast for China for this year, something that brokerages around the world are already reflecting. They are saying that Chinese government's expectation and target of a 5% growth for this year will not be met. In fact, some have even downgraded it to less than 3.5%, indicating that these trade tensions will have a very large impact on China's manufacturing setup. And that will mean that these trade tensions are only set to increase from here on. And the message that the Trump administration is giving is that it's not going to bow down to the Chinese mechanism, so to say, and it will not bow down to any of the tactics, which is that even if there is a strong messaging coming in from China, Donald Trump is not going to relent, which means that if these tariffs remain the way they are, even the 3.5% growth target that some brokerages have brought down China's economy target to may be very difficult. Bottom line to this really is that the manufacturing overall ecosystem for China is under tremendous pressure. The numbers look rosy because they were before the Trump tariffs kicked in April. My sense is the next 2 quarters would see a lot of back and forth before the two sides finally get onto the table and decide what would be the way forward.
The next 2 quarters will be crucial for China, says Executive Editor Gauri Dwivedi. Thank you so much for that, Gauri. Moving on and staying with China, in fact, the country has issued over 85,000 visas to Indian citizens. Now, this is between the 1st of January and the 9th of April only this year, signaling a thaw in people-to-people ties, in fact. Now, the Chinese ambassador to India also, in fact, invited more Indians to visit, calling China open, safe and friendly. The move comes amid rising global trade tensions, especially with the US President Donald Trump having threatened new tariffs on Chinese goods. Now, in response, China has urged India to stand against what it calls US tariff abuse, adding a diplomatic edge to an otherwise soft power move. Over in the US, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff are set to visit Paris this week for key talks on Ukraine, Iran, and even the ongoing trade war. Now, Witkoff will meet French President Emmanuel Macron while Rubio speaks with his French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot. Now, the visit comes shortly after Witkoff met Russian President Putin in Moscow. It was part of a slow-moving push for, in fact, a ceasefire in Ukraine. Macron, meanwhile, is rallying European support for Kiev, including the idea of a reassurance force if fighting indeed does stop. Trade tensions, meanwhile, are also expected to feature in the talks as Trump's recent tariff suspension faces skepticism from Paris. Donald Trump threatened to eliminate Harvard University's tax-exempt status following the Ivy League school's refusal to implement policy changes demanded by his administration this week. Now, basically, all major colleges and universities across the U.S. are tax-exempt organizations, and the government revoking that status over policy disagreements would be unprecedented. Like many other Trump decisions this time, the U.S. tax code, meanwhile, also grants exemptions to a wide swathe, in fact, of organizations including charities, religious institutions, and even some political organizations. But Republicans, well, they've taken aim at the Ivy League through the tax code in the past. Congress imposed a 1.4% tax on high-dollar university endowments like Harvard's, in fact, in 2017, and Republicans may expand the levy in the tax package they are currently assembling. Listen in.
I believe the possibility of removing tax-exempt status. How serious is that threat, and are there other universities he's considering?
First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students.
Staying with the U.S., President Donald Trump is now proposing a controversial self-deportation program offering financial incentives for undocumented immigrants to leave the U.S. voluntarily. Now, in a Fox Noticias interview, Trump said stipends and plane tickets would be provided with a chance to re-enter legally in the future. The White House, meanwhile, offered no further comments. Now, Trump, who's vowed mass deportations in his second term, is now urging immigrants to initiate their own departure through a government app. His latest policy comes as immigration remains a top election issue and follows a broader crackdown on illegal entry and overstays. And the Trump administration has proposed eliminating U.S. funding for United Nations peacekeeping missions, citing failures in Mali, Lebanon, and even Congo. The U.S. currently contributes over a quarter of the UN's peacekeeping budget. Now, the proposal is part of a larger plan, in fact, to slash the State Department's budget by half or 50%. For this, Congress must approve the plan, and lawmakers are expected to push back. Meanwhile, UNICEF has said it in fact expects a 20% cut in its 2026 budget. Now, this after the U.S. slashed humanitarian aid under President Trump's America First initiative. The agency had nearly $9 billion in 2024, but now anticipates steep drops, citing a global funding crisis. The U.S. has historically been UNICEF's largest donor, contributing over $800 million only last year. Trump's broader aid review has already forced rather major cutbacks across UN agencies, with staff layoffs and program reductions looming. UNICEF has said that it's reassessing operations to protect what matters the most: child survival and well-being. The U.S. military is reportedly preparing to have its presence in Syria. That's correct. About 2,000 troops are currently in the country, assisting Kurdish forces against any ISIS resurgence. The move comes as the Trump administration balances negotiations with Iran and also increases its military posture across West Asia. A federal judge has sharply criticized Trump administration officials for failing to act on a Supreme Court order to bring back a Salvadorian man deported last month. 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego Garcia was in fact sent to a mega prison in El Salvador despite legal protections that should have in fact kept him in the U.S. Now, the judge, Paula Sinis, has said, and I quote here, nothing has been done, and gave the government 2 weeks to show concrete steps. While the Supreme Court has said that the U.S. must facilitate his return, the Department of Homeland Security now says that the man Garcia, who hails from Maryland, would be detained if he tries to re-enter the country. The Team Trump defends the deportation, citing alleged gang MS-13 ties, which his family vehemently deny. The European Union's long-delayed roadmap to end oil and gas imports from Russia will finally be released on the 6th of May. Now, the plan, originally due last month, outlines how the bloc intends to quit Russian fossil fuels entirely by 2027. But the path won't be easy. 19% of EU's gas supply still comes from Russia, and in fact it came last year. Now, this mostly as liquefied natural gas. Hungary is blocking sanctions, and there's growing debate, in fact, on whether to impose tariffs. Meanwhile, the US is emerging as a key alternative supplier. However, concerns remain as President Trump may use gas exports as leverage in future EU-US trade talks. The top advisor of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was escorted from the Pentagon on Tuesday as part of an investigation into an unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information. Now, this is as per reports. Dan Caldwell, who was identified as part of an ongoing leak investigation, was placed on administrative leave since arriving at the Pentagon with Hegseth in January. Now, Caldwell has accompanied the Defense Secretary to some of his meetings with key foreign leaders. In a signal text chain, in fact, first disclosed by the Atlantic last month, Caldwell was also listed as Hexet's representative to the White House. This as it prepared to launch strikes in Yemen. He also advised Hexet on other key matters related to US military operations around the world. Four people have been injured in a shooting at Wilmer Hutchins High School in Dallas. Authorities have said that 3 of the victims, aged between 15 and 18 years of age, were shot but are expected to recover. A student suspect, meanwhile, has been identified but remains at large. The school was quickly secured and students were reunited with families at a nearby stadium. Meanwhile, classes have been cancelled for the rest of the week, with mental health services being offered. This incident marks the second such shooting at the same school in just over 1 year. Listen in.
It remains a fluid investigation, and all of our law enforcement partners are helping us to work on this investigation. We had 4 students injured today and were transported to area hospitals. The suspect has not been arrested, but we have identified the suspect, and as I mentioned, we have many of our law enforcement partners helping us, and we are working on locating and arresting the suspect at this time.
According to a Guardian report, Britain's Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds is expected to visit China later this year to revive trade talks and restart the UK-China Joint Economic Commission. Now, since Labour came to power in 2024, that's last year, the UK has cautiously re-engaged with Beijing, its 5th largest trading partner, despite ongoing concerns over security and human rights. Now, Reynolds recently said Chinese firms are no longer welcome in the UK steel sector, but he left room for cooperation in areas like car manufacturing, life sciences, and even agriculture. The UK Supreme Court is set to rule today on whether the term woman under the Equality Act includes transgender women with legal gender recognition certificates. Now, this ruling could have wide-ranging implications for trans rights, particularly regarding access to women-only spaces and public roles. The case was brought by campaigners who say only biological women should be covered, while the Scottish government argues, in fact, that legal recognition should be provided with full protection. Hamas is said to have rejected an Israeli proposal for a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza, which called for the armed group to give up all its weapons. A senior Palestinian official familiar with the talks said the plan gave no commitment to end the war or for an Israeli troop pullout. Key militant group Hamas demands in exchange for releasing half of the living hostages which it holds. Now, this comes as Israel continues its military offensive in the besieged enclave. The Hong Kong Post has halted sea mail and will soon stop air mail for goods sent to the US, citing Washington's bullying tariffs. The agency criticized America's decision to scrap the de minimis exemption and raise fees on imported goods starting the 2nd of May. It said it will not act as a tax collector for America. Now, the move comes as Hong Kong continues to face US trade restrictions after losing its special status under American law. As time we slip into a short break, I'll see you on the other side.
I urgently need to ask for your help on behalf of animals at risk right now. With the pandemic came a surge in pet ownership. And sadly, we're now seeing a serious rise in neglect, cruelty, and abuse. Our services are being stretched to the limit. To make matters worse, our costs are soaring too. But we refuse to let animals suffer. So please, act now to help rescue the growing number of animals who've never needed us more. Please call or text the number on screen now to give £2 a month to the RSPCA. In one of the toughest times we have ever experienced, your gift will make all the difference to animals. You could help provide more life-saving treatment, food, shelter, and the loving care that many have never known. We know there are millions of you who, like us, care deeply and won't stand by while animals are suffering. We have to reach those trapped in a life of abuse and neglect before it's too late. Because for many, the RSPCA is their only hope. But we can only come to the rescue with the support of people like you. So please, will you help us be there no matter what? Call 0800 313 4392 or text RSPCA to 78866 to start your monthly gift today. Thank you.
I like to think ahead. Make sure I've got all the right tools for the job.
And now that I've turned 50, it means looking after what I've built. I'll be retiring down the line, and with the mortgage nearly done, I want to make sure that my lot will be protected if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler and can be done in just a few minutes. Go online or talk to one of their friendly UK team who will chat you through your options in just one phone call. And their claims process is really straightforward, so your loved ones will be looked after.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Get covered in minutes with no annoying trips to the doctor. With fixed monthly payments, prices start at just £4.42 a month. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now that's done, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0800 470 4322 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
Welcome back. You're watching The World Report. On to business news now. NVIDIA is taking a $5.5 billion hit after the US government blocked sales of its advanced H20 A1 chips to China. In fact, now the chips, popular with Chinese tech giants like Tencent and ByteDance, have in fact been flagged by US officials for their high-speed memory connectivity, which could very well be used to build supercomputers. The Biden administration had previously limited such exports, and now those rules are being enforced indefinitely. Meanwhile, NVIDIA, a key player in the global AI race, had designed the H20 to comply with earlier restrictions, but that wasn't enough. Now, the move comes as NVIDIA plans major US investments in AI hardware, aligning with Trump's push for domestic manufacturing. Harley-Davidson is under intense pressure from its second largest investor, H Partners, which wants immediate leadership changes. Now, the firm has launched a boardroom battle pushing for the removal of CEO Joshen Zeitz and two other longtime directors. Now, Zeitz is expected to retire this year. He has led Harley since 2020. H Partners holds a 9% stake and blames management for declining sales and a 45%, almost 50% drop in stock over the past 1 year alone. Now, the company plans to take their case to shareholders at next month's annual meeting. Harley-Davidson has not responded publicly yet. A newly revealed internal memo shows that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg once considered spinning off Instagram amid fears of antitrust action. The 2018 document shown during an FTC trial highlights growing pressure on big tech firms. Zuckerberg acknowledged that consolidation could bring growth but also risks along. The FTC wants Meta to unwind its acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, citing anti-competitive behavior. Meanwhile, Meta argues it faces strong competition from TikTok, YouTube, and other sites. The trial could very well reshape how US regulators treat major tech mergers. And a whistleblower has alleged that Elon Musk's tech team may be behind a major cyber breach at the US National Labor Relations Board. The complaint made public by whistleblower Aid cites internal testimony from an NLRB IT staffer. Sensitive case files may have been compromised. The agency, which protects workers' rights, has long been a target of powerful corporations Now, the breach itself, if confirmed, could have significant legal and political implications. Musk and his team have not responded to the allegations as of now. California's Attorney General has declined to support Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI. Now, Musk accuses the firm he co-founded, in fact, of abandoning its non-profit mission and sought state backing. But California Assistant AG, has said that Musk hasn't shown how the suit benefits the public. The Tesla CEO recently led a failed $97 billion bid to control OpenAI. The legal battle, meanwhile, centers on OpenAI's shift to a for-profit model and Musk's claim that it undermines its original goals. A jury trial, meanwhile, is set for next year, while OpenAI insists its new structure, in fact, helps fund its mission. In the world of sports, shooting sports will return to the Olympic spotlight at the 2028 Los Angeles Games. That's correct. This time in LA County itself. Now, that's a shift from Paris 2024, where events were held nearly 270 kilometers from the main venue. The International Shooting Sport Federation President Luciano Rossi welcomed the move and has also said that he'll push for future games to keep shooting within host cities. Portuguese soccer team Astoria Praia will wear special green and yellow jerseys in a match against Braga to honor Arjun Senna, the legendary Brazilian Formula One driver. Now, the special kit is a tribute to Senna's iconic helmet colors and his first F1 win at the Estoril circuit in 1985. The tribute marks the 40th anniversary of Senna's win, and the team is in fact celebrating the connection between Senna and the municipality of Casais. Now, Wink Martindale, the iconic voice behind decades of American game shows, has passed away at the age of 91. Known for hosting classics like Tic-Tac-Toe, Gambit and High Rollers, Martindale died in Rancho Mirage in California. His manager confirmed the sad news. Martindale began his career in radio, where he also befriended a young Elvis Presley. With over a dozen game shows under his belt and a signature baritone voice, Wink became a beloved TV presence. His nickname also came from childhood mispronunciation of his birth name, Winston. No cause of death has been shared yet. Now, HBO is officially confirming the first cast members for the Harry Potter TV series. That's correct. Harry Potter HBO series confirms casting for Dumbledore, Snape, Hagrid and more Hogwarts staffers: John Lithgow, Janet McTeer, Papa Esidu, Nick Forrest, Luke Thannon and Paul Whitehouse. The show is expected to begin filming this summer itself. HBO, meanwhile, is describing the show as a faithful adaptation of the globally recognized J.K. Rowling book series. Well, that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful day.
We know travel can be confusing. That's why I use travelup.com. Compare and book over 100 airlines and thousands of hotels. And while you're away, TravelUp has you covered. Get flight updates on delays and cancellations in a way that suits you. TravelUp provides this for over 100 airlines, so there's no need to have multiple travel apps on your phone. Book now on travelup.com or call 0207 580 5000. TravelUp. Flights, hotels, holidays.
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories. You don't know where to begin and you don't know what to believe.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand about blood glucose levels.
I was scared and I was worried.
I didn't understand diabetes full stop.
That's why the support I get as a Diabetes UK member is so important.
You can become a Diabetes UK member too. To join us now, just call 0800 144 5406 and become a member today for just £3 a month. When you do, you'll receive a practical guide specific to your type of diabetes and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year. Balance is filled with news and inspiring real-life stories from members just like you. And you'll receive regular emails and vital updates that will help you feel informed and supported. Plus, you'll help support research that could lead to better treatments for all types of diabetes.
Membership makes life better because you're not alone anymore.
Call 0800 144 5406 or go online to become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month, because membership can help you learn to live better with diabetes.
From energy grids to tech breakthroughs to defence cooperation, Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to Sri Lanka is set to be the most consequential, one that will elevate and reshape the India-Sri Lanka ties from here on. And watch that unmatched, non-stop ground coverage on NDTV World with me, Gauri Dwivedi, right here from Colombo.
Is of course something that the NTA has come out in its defense and said. Now some alleging as far as the mismatches are concerned between their response sheets and the questions they claim to have attempted, and what really happened here is that several coaching institutes, several experts as well as students and parents are echoing the same emotions, and they are urging to consider bonus marks or drop that flawed question. That is what is being suggested. Now the NTA has faced increasing backlash over the past year as well, particularly following the technical glitches when it comes to the CUET UG 2024 exams, as well as the error as far as its answer keys are concerned. So the purpose of this is to remove any kind of anomaly and ensure fairness in this particular case. And now the NTA has added that it is considering every challenge to the provisional answer key with utmost seriousness. So the agency there, the NTA, emphasizing that this is the answer key challenge process that's designed to ensure fairness by allowing students to raise their objections if they find discrepancies. And the students are now, in fact, it's not just the students but the parents and even experts in the field. These are coaching institutes. They're also coming out in defense of what really transpired here, saying that the NTA should take action, and therefore the kind of action that they're suggesting in this particular case is that they need to consider bonus marks or drop the flawed questions. We're talking about 3 subjects here, and of course this is in regard to how every single mark can basically impact the future of its candidates. So while the NTA is saying that the purpose is to remove any kind of anomaly and ensure the fairness as far as the exam is concerned, they've added that they're considering every challenge to this provisional answer key with utmost fairness and utmost seriousness. The kind of errors that we are talking about span in 3 subjects, spanning from 4 in physics, 3 in chemistry and 2 in mathematics. The students say the problems aren't just tricky questions, but they are factually incorrect. So this is in regard to the examination. Of course, the students and the parents are raising a lot of objections to what really transpired at the time during that examination as far as the key answer is concerned. So the answer key is something that hasn't matched. Some of the students have said that they attempted to answer 40 questions, but in the answer key, it showed that it only attempted 40, 45 or 48 questions and not all 50 that they had attempted. So those are the allegations that are being made. Those are the concerns that are being raised as far as the entrance test is concerned. So many, faults that are being highlighted in regard to this particular examination. So of course, this is the parents there also coming out, raising those concerns there. But of course, this is something that the NTA has now gone on to say, that do not draw conclusions based on the provisional answer key that is not desirable. The NTA would like to advise and inform candidates that it should not really be misled by reports that create unnecessary doubt and anxiety amongst the students. To know more on this, we have our guests joining us this afternoon. We have Dr. Nisha Najumuddin, who is joining us. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking with us here on NDTV. This is in regard to, when we talk about the NTA stating that the answer keys released so far are provisional and not final, and not to jump to any kind of conclusion. Is that reassuring enough?
The answer keys, there has been found to be little discrepancy in it. I would say that the system, or let's say the NTA, they are supposed to have proper scrutinization before releasing or publishing such kind of results. And this clearly shows the lack of proper, proper way in which the things have to be followed. And now, when there is no strong fundamentals that has been followed in the scrutiny system, automatically the students or the people start losing faith in the AI system. Now we are in an era of technological era. So now merely relying on all the AI apps like ChatGPT or let's say any other apps and just putting a question, answer key, and just doing a mechanical work has made it even more, terrible, I would say. And now this is actually putting a load of, high pressure and stress among the students that even the so-called G exam or this sort of entrance exams, they are kind of not credible enough. So where are we going? So what sort of credibility do we have in analyzing a proper entrance examination pattern as a whole? So when people lose faith, it becomes like, we are actually encouraging such kind of unnecessary corrupt activities to also, occur in this kind of scenario. And now it has been taken in a very narrow way, I would say. Why? Because now when you mislead something, the kind of trust, the kind of authenticity that we have towards system has been broken. And now this is not a private institution. So GE exam is not conducted by any private institutions where, you can say, okay, it was misleaded. So now these kind of misleading, these kind of errors, so errors do happen. We can't say that errors cannot happen because human errors are possible. But then a proper testing body is required to cross-check 2 to 3 times before such kind of answer key has been published. Otherwise, this causes a lot of commotions and chaos, and this is indeed causing a damage to the entire educational systems, curriculums, and beliefs. Because a lack of students, they do prepare for this exam just because they want to, literally get placed in very good institutions, right? And now this kind of errors on that too, which happened in the JEE Mains 2025 examination, it shows that the students are not having a trust in the system anymore. So that again leads to more of corruptions from their side also, which is actually not encouraged. And just think about the n number of complaints. Just think about the mental trauma. Think about the tensions, the stress that has been taken not only by the students but also the parents and such kind
You're
of
also a public policy
situations.
expert. Students have flagged these issues. There are discrepancies like we've discussed. What steps do you think can be taken in this regard?
So what I would say that one exam high stakes, right? For example, in such kind of scenario, if you see the so-called UPSC, Union Public Service Commissions, which is indeed the most prestigious examination that is conducted by them, your IAS, IPS, civil service and all this stuff, right? Even such kind of issues do occur there also, but it's very, very, very rare. A proper system has been followed in such kind of scenario. Why can't that be followed in JEE also? So we need to have a committee or a task force which exclusively focus on addressing such kind of grievance issues and also making sure that before anything is published or put into the public platform, you need to cross-check twice or thrice, and that too for that, though they have an official body also, look at the way how people are working in it. Why don't they scrutinize? Why don't they kind of recheck on what is happening? And this testing agencies have to be revamped, I would say, because these testing agencies are not revamped, this kind of errors are coming, and this error cloud is actually causing a lot of issues with regard to the future of the students. It is actually a red flag for the students to believe in a system as a whole. So immediately the government also have to take an initiative of restructuring the system wherein such kind of issues do not pop up in future, because it is not just an issue, rather it is causing a huge impact on the entire student and the parent community as a whole and their belief in the educational and curriculum systems of such kind of entrance examinations.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking with us. And of course, the demands that are being made in regard to this is that they should consider bonus marks or drop the flawed questions altogether. And is that even up for consideration is the big question. Thank you for speaking with us here on NDTV. And in a setback as far as Siddaramaiah is concerned, this is in regard to the Mura case. Now we have the latest coming in as far as the Karnataka division bench is concerned. Hearing the appeal demanding a CBI probe into the matter has now been issued with notices to all respondents, including the Chief Minister of Karnataka, his wife and others related to this particular case. And this matter has now been posted for the 28th of April. We have this activist who had filed that appeal seeking the CBI probe in the case after the single bench of the High Court had rejected his earlier plea. We have Deepak joining us. Deepak, quite a setback when we talk about the Chief Minister of Siddaramaiah, and of course this is a CBI probe has now been is going to be taking place.
Well, there is no CBI probe that has been ordered. In fact, it was a plea that was filed in the single bench that was rejected. Now, the division bench, has been moved. This is an appeal that has been filed to the earlier, order of the Karnataka High Court, asking for a CBI inquiry into the Muda issue. Right now, it's procedural that notices have been issued to all respondents, including the Karnataka Chief Minister. You have the Union Home Ministry, CBI, and other people who are connected to this particular case. The matter is going to be taken up on the 28th of April. So it's an interesting development. We'll really have to see whether there'll be relief for the Chief Minister like he did get in the single bench order, or whether the division bench here will, allow for a CBI probe into the case.
Right. The Karnataka High Court has issued notices to Siddaramaiah, his wife and others in the matter. Thank you so much, Deepak, for getting us those details. Let's just get you more details coming in regard to the war that continues. This is a trade war between US and China. Now, China is facing tariffs of 245% on import of goods into the United States. Do remember that figure was about 145, but now that has been taken up to 245%. That's the latest announcement that's been made by the White House as a result of its retaliatory actions. That's what the White House has gone ahead and said, that the trade war between the two countries appears to run further and further off the road. This comes after China ordered its airlines not to take any further deliveries of Boeing jets in response to the earlier US decision to impose 145% tariffs on goods coming out of China. Beijing also has instructed Chinese carriers to halt any purchases of aircraft-related equipment and parts from the US companies. We have Ghazali, my colleague, joining us to get us details of this. Ghazali, this is a retaliatory move. Take us through what is it that China has done to irk Donald Trump all over again.
See, as you rightly pointed out, China has asked its aircraft carriers not to take parts from US Boeing company, and that is why it has urged Donald Trump, and the US administration has imposed retaliatory tariff on China. Now, China is saying that this approach won't work because China is not confrontational force. China